month. Happy Wednesday. My name is Alexandria Cummings, and I am the Director of Financial Inclusion for YWCA Metropolitan Chicago. And I am super excited to have a special guest today. But I'm just also excited that we get to celebrate Black History Month. We get to celebrate it every day, but Black History Month gives me an extra sense of excitement. And so today is the second event in a four-part series titled The History and Future of Black Wealth. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about the history, but also go a little bit into the future and talk about how we can build generational wealth. The upcoming events in the series are every Wednesday at noon. So same bad time, same bad channel. Next Wednesday, we're going to have the Young Moguls with World of Money. So we're going to hear from the future of Black wealth. Young people are going to talk about how they invest in real estate and the stock market and all kinds of good stuff. And then on the 24th of this month, we are going to talk about the Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator program that's coming up. So you really want to stay tuned and rock with us every Wednesday at noon. Also, if you are not following us on social media, we are at YWCA Chicago on all of our platforms. So check us out. And since we are streaming this live from Facebook, please hit the share button right now. Invite your friends because today is just going to be great. It might be the blackest thing you've done all day. So with that, I could just say that Rendel is one of the smartest people I know, but I know a lot of smart people, so that doesn't, really do it. So can I just tell them your bio?
I'll talk to you. Yeah, go ahead. Pick which parts of it you want. Yeah, please don't read the whole thing though.
I'm not. It's short because it was really long, and I was like, we don't have time for all that. It's short, but let me set the stage for your Black boy joy, Black boy magic, whatever. Okay. Okay, so let me go back and see. This is Rendel and I are professionals, but we also know each other. So today we're going to really try to be on our best behavior, right, Rendel?
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so
I'm gonna try not to slip up not to slip up like Angela Rye did when she called that woman out her name.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Let me read your bio. So of a nonprofit, One Stock, One Future, and it's built with a mission to create 1 million youth shareholders and instill a sense of hope, inspiration, empowerment, and opportunity through stock ownership. And we'll talk a little bit about this today. Today's session is from sharecropper to shareholder, but his great grandparents picked cotton for meager wages. If you don't know what sharecropping is, you need to look it up and learn a little bit about it. But that's where they started out, and so now he's created this new family legacy that began by purchasing stock for his 8-year-old niece. Rendel, tell us a little bit about yourself. Something that's not in your bio.
You got it. Well, first of all, thank you to you, Alexandria, to YWCA, to Dory. I love you guys. Like you said, we're friends, we're colleagues, we're family, damn it. And we're here to speak truth to power, to tell it like it is, and to keep moving forward. It's always interesting, even when you think about the title of my TEDx, Sharecropper to Shareholder, there's oftentimes this criticism of the Black community from both outside and inside, that we want to focus on the past so much and that we don't want to move on. And I find that an interesting argument when we look at elite athletes. They literally pour over video of their games for hours and hours and hours, trying to understand what went right, what went wrong, what do we need to change, what do we need to do differently. America hasn't done that. America doesn't want to view old game footage to figure out what to do going forward. They're just on the field and just running around doing what they think makes sense without a real awareness, acknowledgement, accountability before getting to the action piece. So what won't you see in the bio? Well, you're going to ask me this a little bit later, talking about my recent career in private equity, but I'll start out by saying how I now introduce myself. And I now introduce myself as a retired engineer, a reformed private equity investor, and an aspiring anti-capitalist. And an aspiring anti-capitalist. And that's a heavy phrase to throw out there for people, because here I am, I talk about stock and ownership and helping young people become shareholders. I do financial education work, and I come from the world of private equity, venture capital, investing in businesses. So for the greater part of my past 13 years, everything I've done has been about money, advancement, wealth creation, etc. But I've made this leap to now call myself an aspiring anti-capitalist. So that's probably one of the newest items in my resume, but in my bio. But fun fact, and I think Granny might be watching right now. I know we're going to get into her
And you
talking
already
about her
said
background
a
a little
bad
bit.
word, by the way.
What did I say?
You said the D word. It's okay. I'm glad my
Oh,
son's not in here.
that one doesn't count.
Okay, good. Okay.
Granny said that one's okay. Granny said that one's okay. But fun fact, you didn't ask about it, but that's always a fun part of these discussions. So let's talk about this beard for a second. So when I was young, I literally had the exact same haircut. I was never the kid I never had a box, I never had curls, I never had twists, I never had locks, none of that. It was just low, clean fade every time. And my middle sister used to make fun of me all the time, Quinessa, because she's the fashionista of the family. She's the more colorful, artistic one, all the creative visions. She runs a company called Always on Cue, doing fashion styling and closet reconstruction. I just made that term up, but I kind of like it. And she would make fun of me. She was like, dude, go get a different haircut, man. You look boring. And
you
so
didn't get your name in it or anything. You didn't
never lines. I did get the single part. I did do the single part one time.
Because you're
So
from the west side. I thought
from the
y'all,
west
I don't know
side.
what the south side over here, but I think the west side, you would have like an Uncle Remus.
We could do that too. Shout out to
Okay.
Charmaine. Why not? Why not put Uncle Remus and give her some additional marketing? So anyway,
I love it.
so that's a fun fact. You won't find that in the bio, but that's a little bit about the story.
Okay, thank you. This is fun already, and so you know, I don't, you know, people. We have a script. We're gonna try to stick to that. But listen, one thing, and I said this last week. One thing that I love about being a part of the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago family is that authenticity is celebrated. So everybody gets this all day. And so it's amazing that I get to share myself this way and so it just bubbles over. But anyway, so you did a TEDx, right? So I didn't say that in your bio, but you did a TED talk, right? And when you did your TED talk, it was your signature talk from sharecropper to shareholder, right? And so for those of us who've seen it, we know that your grandmother has been the impetus for this movement that you're starting. So tell us a little bit about Granny. And I want to meet her, by the way, but tell me a little bit about her.
Well, in bad news, good news. I'll give you the bad news first. Let me give you the good news first, because that freaks people out when you give bad news first. So the good news is Granny's perfectly fine. Love her. She's great, doing well, eating good, dealing with this cold weather, etc. Bad news is there was a bit of a small fire smoke situation at her crib last week that we're dealing with, and it did displace her for a while. So we're working on getting that fixed. But even in this experience with a small fire at the house, fire people all over the place, she remains resilient. Like it's like nothing breaks this woman. And I'm hoping it's not the proverbial strong Black woman thing where she's holding it all in and then it all hits at the same time. God bless her, because we're here for her and we'll do anything for her because she's seen 80 years on this earth. She had obviously a tough childhood down in Mississippi, and everything you hear me talk about in the TEDx about her journey from Mississippi to Chicago. For anyone who's not read the book Warmth of Other Suns, I encourage you to check that one out by Isabel Wilkerson. It tells the story of 3 families who moved during the Great Migration. One family moved from Mississippi to Chicago, and the matriarch's name in that family is Ida Mae Gladney. Interestingly enough, that was my late mother's name, Ida Mae. So that was a common name down in the South, apparently. I have an aunt named Ida Mae, and my patriarchal matriarchal great-great-grandmother's name was Ida Mae as well. So, and then there was another family who moved from Texas to California, a gentleman, and then there was a gentleman who moved from Florida to New York. So it's a fascinating book that gives you vivid details and accounts of that journey that I've got to hear directly from my grandmother. And as I thought about her journey from the South, from picking cotton in the fields to walking several miles to go to school, to raising 3 kids on the west side of Chicago, to the struggles finally trying to buy a home, to my grandfather being a carpenter and trying to provide for the family. Like, they did all of this so that their kids could get a greater education, which leads to me and my sisters, Quiness and Adrian, becoming the first generation in our family to attend college, with my older cousin being the first one to go. And then from there, we get to Cadence, my niece, who's now turning 13 in a week. She turns 13 on February 21st. And she's now a shareholder of Nike, Apple, Disney, Starbucks, Microsoft, Amazon, Netflix, Tesla, Google, McDonald's, Uber, Chase, and Zoom. So,
Yes.
It's just kind of crazy. Like I said, and I've said this before when I've spoken, I looked over one day at my 78-year-old grandmother at the time and thought about her being 10 years old picking cotton in the field. And then I looked over at my niece and said, holy crap, this child is picking stocks right now. Like, there's something to this journey within our family that I want to share with the world, as people who come from marginalized communities are engaging in their own journey. It doesn't absolve the system of what it has done to lead to those disparities, but I did want to insert a sense of hope and optimism.
Wow. So a couple things. And so yeah. So
I know, heavy, right?
I know. I mean, it is, right. And so I have like 10 thoughts swirling. So the first thing I'll say is, wow. I'll say it again because, there's a saying that we are our ancestors' wildest dreams, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you are, right? And so I just want to call that out. Don't get the big head, okay?
I won't.
But you are your ancestors' dreams, or maybe you're beyond their dreams, because I cannot imagine what it was like to be a sharecropper. And so for those of you who don't know, Google it. But basically, and this is Alexandria's definition, not the official one. So shortly after slavery, right, when it was over, people got to work, right? Essentially, it was indentured servitude, right, where
That's
you
it.
got paid, but you never kind of quite made the money to
Yep.
move on from where you were. So instead of when you were slaves, you didn't get paid. With this, you got paid a little bit, but it was never enough to leave your situation or buy your own farm or anything like that, right? And so you continue, to be still, a slave, not officially, but in the act of not ever having enough money to move on and still being indebted to someone. And so if I think about being in that place, who would ever think about owning stock, right? Who would ever think about owning something as someone who was previously somebody else's property, right? So that, wow. And so I really love it. And I love that you are investing, you are have told your niece, don't just wear the Jordans, right?
Right.
Buy some Nike stock. And so I have like all the things, but I'll just stop there. And so it just wow, I just love it, right? The fact that we have come so far and that you can see it in your family. So I'll just stop right there because I could just go on and on, but that's the point.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So and Granny, hey Granny, my next question is, so where are you on your journey? You just left private equity, like the money was there, you were where the money resides, right?
A
And
lot
then
of it.
you left, right? So I mean, not that you don't have money now, but you left private equity. So tell us about that and where you are now.
Yeah, that was not an easy decision to leave that industry. Bit of background: I ended up in private equity because after leaving New York, or I was kind of forced to leave New York because health was bad, credit was bad, money was low. I was working as an entrepreneur and decided I needed to get back home, get back to Chicago to sort of reconfigure my life in a sense, and figure I was turning 30 years old. And I said, all right, I can't be broke in New York at 30 years old. You can be broke at 25 and 26 in New York, but broke at 30 ain't fun in a city like New York. So I came on home and started working at Mentor's private equity firm. And for those who don't know what private equity is, just real quick, if you watch the TV show Shark Tank, that was essentially my job. That is private equity. It's venture capital. It's investing in businesses, and it's going out to raise money to go invest in those businesses. So at the time, we had about $300 million that the firm was managing. And during my time there, we got it up to about 1.2 billion under management before I left. But directly to your question around leaving the company and leaving the organization, is I realized that when you're in the center of a structure and a system that you believe fundamentally has either racism, capitalism, and every other ism at the center of how it moves, then it makes it hard to sort of fight against it. In other words, I hit this point where I realized capitalism breeds inequity in its current form. And there's this idea of shareholder value sort of versus stakeholders. And the question is, how do we move a system more broadly so that as we seek to improve the financial positions of an organization, that it doesn't hurt individuals and communities, in particular Black people? So that's sort of the big picture. I decided, you know what, let me step out of it for a second. To use a movie reference, I needed to step out of the Matrix. And that's sort of where I am on the journey. I'm in the scene, and I was just watching it the other day because I love the movie. I think it's actually a great analogy for life. But I was at the scene where Morpheus is trying to show Neo that he can jump across that roof, but he can't believe it. He can't believe it's possible. I'm at a place where I have to believe it's possible. I'm not quite at the place where I can put my hand up and stop the bullets like Neo did, but that is the journey. We need to start thinking about the impossible, or what has been perceived to be impossible, as it relates to our liberation, especially in this overtly racist capitalist system.
Well, there you go. Tweet that. Somebody tweet that. You're like, no punches. Tweet that, somebody. And I'm trying to like put stuff in the chat so I can have it for later. But yes. So okay, a takeaway that, you know, a lot of people, I love that you called that out. And a lot of people feel like that I'm in the system and this is the only way that I can fight against it, is to be, you know, inside, you know, of the belly, right?
Yep.
You know, but the only person who I know that came out of the belly was Jonah in the Bible when he got swallowed up by the whale, right? And so that was very old Black lady of me. Thank you, my Sunday school teacher. But right, and so I appreciate you calling that out. And one thing I've realized from my career is that, you know, you got to make bold moves, right? I think probably, I know you didn't say this, but I bet you think this, that you've gotten to a point in your life where you like, you don't have a lot of cares about things, right?
Come on now. I look, I see what you did right there.
Okay, see? You don't have a lot of,
I don't have a lot of cares
you don't have a lot of cares about things, right? And so I think that once you run out of cares, I think that is when liberation begins.
And let me add something also to your comment and what I said before. Nothing I've said is meant to disparage those who go about their lives to feed their family, pay the mortgage and the rent, and do what they need to do for that. I get it. I support it. My mother had to do it. Granny had to do it. Like this fight that I'm on right now, it couldn't be their fight. My mom passed in 2006, worked 2 jobs, pretty much for as far back as I can remember. So if you have to go to work from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m., you ain't got time to be hopping on Zoom with Alexandria talking about capitalism and racism. This is my fight. This is our generation's fight. The prior generation got us to this point, but I just feel really strongly we need to do something different. That doesn't mean leave the company where you work to go be a freedom fighter. No, it's not what I'm suggesting. You need money. You need to pay your bills. You need to pay your rent. I know we're going to talk about financial education more broadly in a second. Those things are important, but there are steps that you can take even where you sit right now. And it doesn't mean leaving multi-hundred thousands of dollars a year on the table like I was fortunately able to do and felt compelled to do. I don't have any real income right now, but thankfully I've saved. I've managed my money to a place where I can take this break for at least a few months to explore what else is possible. So keep working hard where you are, but I also encourage you to maintain that awareness and acknowledgement of where the real issues lie, and just be careful that you don't become too comfortable, too complacent, and potentially complicit in the system that aims to destroy your people. It doesn't mean you can't go to work and make your money. It just means don't become complicit with the system.
Yes, thank you. And I was hoping that you would end it with another C word. So thank you for
I only
satisfying my
had the
thirst
three.
for a little
Yeah.
alliteration. So and you stole my next question. So yes, let's kind of think about, like, so we kind of talked a little bit up here, right? And so let's
Yep.
kind of meet people where they are, and let's talk about financial awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because your journey is, about, it started with your own financial awareness, and now you're pouring into another generation through your niece, as a stock investor. But what are some practical things that people can do right now, to increase their financial awareness, even in a pandemic or panicotta or panorama or whatever all the memes are saying? But what can people do to increase their financial awareness right now?
Well, I mentioned back to your love of alliteration. I mentioned four words earlier as it relates to what institutions and even America as a whole needs to address. That is this awareness, acknowledgement, accountability, and action. Those same four concepts can apply to how one looks at their financial situation. So I just launched a financial course called Financial Engagement. You can check it out at financialengagement.com. It is not a free course. There's tons of free information out there that folks are more than welcome to try to use, but mine is not at this point in time. But my aim with the program is to really address some of those fundamental areas of personal money management, from budgeting to saving to debt to credit to investing. Each one with a series of modules, videos, and there's going to be more content coming there. This is sort of the version 1, I guess. I just put it out a couple of weeks ago. But the first thing that people need to do, or should do, is really become aware of what's happening with their own money in their own household, what's coming in, what's going out. And I know that sounds simplistic, but it's actually a really difficult thing to do for a lot of people. And it's challenging not because the pen and paper isn't available or the Excel spreadsheet is available. There's this fear and sense of apathy that, oh, I can't look at that right now, because you're afraid you're not going to like what you see. And when we know we aren't going to like what we see, we tend to avoid it. I'm no psychologist, but that is one of the things I've thought about in each of the programs and the steps that I've taken to help people along their financial journey. I realize that there's tons of information out there. But guess what, Alexandria? Between our health, between working out, and anything else, the information is there. We can look up all kinds of workout videos, but guess what? We still hire fitness trainers. We can look up there's no recipe you can think of that somebody hasn't done a YouTube video on, but it still requires us to get up, go to the store, get the ingredients, and actually prepare the food. And sometimes we need that extra motivation to push us along. So my encouragement to folks is really look internally, become really aware of what's happening with your own financial situation. And if you have kids, aim to include them in that conversation. Like, that is really powerful. Like, when you turn a youth into a shareholder, as I say in my TEDx, Cadence walks into a Starbucks now and tells her mom, Mommy, I own this place a little bit. And that mindset right there hopefully
Yes.
translates into their schoolwork, their behaviors, the conversations you can have with them, even as we look at the social unrest and everything happening in the world today. I can still bring that back to a conversation about some company that was in some way connected to the issues that we see every day on the news and on social media. And I think that that is powerful. So I'll leave it at that one for right now. Be really aware of your financial situation, and then get the young people in your household and within your network engaged in that conversation as well.
Yes. Thank you, Rendell. And I'm looking at the chat. So I'm trying to be cute today with my contacts on, but I really need my reading glasses. So let me look. So thank you, Stacy. Stacy is being our note taker. She said awareness, acknowledgement, accountability, and action. So yes, thank you, Stacy, for being my note taker. Keep it up. Thank you. One thing I have done at home is I'm a mom to a 5-year-old, and it's very crazy because he's just like me, which is just it's
Oh
amazing.
boy.
Yeah, I
Oh
know,
boy.
I know. Hashtag pray for my husband. because he's like, he said it's like having two of me. But one thing that I started to do with my son right around, I think he was 3 turning 4. We started to talk about needs and wants, right?
Yep.
And so right before his 4th birthday. And so now as a 5-year-old, he understands the difference between needs and wants, right? And that's kind of your basic economic, with your economics 101, needs and wants. And so he can tell you the difference between the two. And we also talk about abundance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that he understands that, what you have more than you need, as opposed to other people who, are lacking, right? And so he'll go into a store now and say, mommy, I know that I don't need a toy, but I really want one. And
Right.
I know that I have an abundance of other toys at home, but can I please have this toy? And then I look at him and he looks at me and then he's like, okay, mommy, you're right. Right. And
Right. I
so,
don't need this. Yep.
right. And the black mama stare, I don't even have to say anything. And so that one little easy lesson, a 3-year-old, 4 or 5-year-old can understand, because
Yep.
now he's like, okay, I can save. I put my money away, I put it in
Yep.
my piggy bank, and that I have to work for things, which is totally different from the conversation that I got when I was little.
Yep.
Don't ask for nothing because you ain't getting nothing. And I didn't come here to buy you nothing.
Right.
Right. And so that is literally a conversation about needs and wants. Right. And so I think that I'm actually, I mean, I teach him other stuff, but I'm actually very pleased that at 5 years old, he understands that, right? We talk about privilege and things all the time. And, the other day he was just like, mommy, we don't have any prosciutto. I'm like, first of all,
Uh-oh.
sir, prosciutto is for people with jobs, right? But just, the kind of grounding him and saying, a lot of kids don't get to eat this, right? And so
Right.
I think that, grounding your children in gratitude, talking to them about needs and wants, and really teaching them that, hey, this stuff isn't free, is kind of the most basic thing that you should be doing for your children. And let me just shout out World of Money is a
Absolutely.
YWCA program for youth ages 7 to 18. And so even though my son is not 7 yet, I'm feeling like now that he's 5.5, it's really time to, push him towards some kind of more meaningful education
Mm-hmm.
around money. So thank you for that. So yes, awareness, and it just doesn't start as an adult. It
Right.
starts with your kids. And so,
That's really powerful, that conversation that you're having, and hopefully the folks watching and listening really take that away about these conversations that we have with young people as it relates to money, because for many of our families that information wasn't passed down. Again, there was this sense of fear and concern and doubt and lack of understanding, so it's hard to teach something that you don't understand yourself. Going back to Granny, they barely had a bank in Mississippi. So the idea of putting your money in a bank was pretty foreign to them, not to mention that the history of the banks in the US did not do our people very well. Money was taken, money was stolen, money was lost. And so there's this still sense of mistrust of larger institutional financial structures that is resonant in our community. And I'm not saying it's an unjustified fear, because you only have to go back to 2008 to see it happen again. And so when there's this fear and mistrust of financial structures, it makes this conversation about how to manage and what to do with your monies even harder, when you can't trust the systems where you're supposed to store your money from a checking, saving, and investment perspective. But that conversation you're having with your child can and will hopefully break those chains and allow a broadening of the conversation that you can have, and will influence obviously how they manage money. Granny told me a story about we were just around the holidays, that for gifts they would get a box of nuts and like fruit, because again they did not have a lot of money, and so she was just recalling that was their gift. They would each get a box with some fruit in it, and that was their Christmas present. So yes, we've come a long way, but there are learnings and understandings and experiences from a historical perspective that will clearly shed some light on the challenges that we've faced to this point.
yeah. So two things I realized, I was wondering just this Christmas why Black people have, fruit and nuts and candies and stuff around, and I didn't know, but I felt like we should do that. And I thought about it too late, and then it was cold. So now I know why we do that. Thank you. Second thing, because we're almost done, and I have like two more questions I have to give you. Before that, you talked about systems, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And a couple words you've also talked about inequity, disparity, and things like that, right? And so a lot of times when we talk about racial disparities, right, we talk about it in terms of black and white, but not enough. And people gonna be mad because it's, you can't be talking about family business, but I'm gonna talk about it, right? So we talk about racial disparities in terms of black and white, right? But we don't talk enough about the intersections of race and class within the black community, right? And so if you look at us, right, I mean, I don't have all the money that Rendel has, but I do all right. And so somebody may look at me and say, Alexandria's made it. I don't know, right? So what is the responsibility? What responsibilities do the Blacks who have made it have for the Blacks who have not?
Got it. Definitely a multi-layered question that we will not get to fully answer in the 5 minutes that we have remaining. So thank you for putting me.
We have 12 minutes. We have
12 minutes. Okay. So thank you for putting me on the spot. But this issue actually just came up in a recent article I looked at from Harvard Business Review, and it is challenging and it is at times frustrating. Let me start with one, clearly acknowledging that social class is a significant aspect as it relates to a group or an individual or family's mobility into upper levels of society and income level brackets and wealth and everything else. That is important. It's critical. And there is that intersectionality with race. I'm no historian. I'm no economist. I'm no data statistician. But what's frustrating to me in this conversation, not from you, but when others have it, is that it's often brought up as a way to deflect from race-focused challenges. And so I'm not going to get a PhD. I'm not going to study this thing for the next 30 years. Other folks have done that. I'm reading those things. I'm learning from lots of different folks. I got a lot of good books on my plate right now. Ibram X. Kendi. I'm reading another one from Isabel Wilkerson is coming. I'm reading a book about capitalism. So reading and continuing to learn is critical. But as it relates to this race and class issue and responsibility of Blacks in certain thresholds, I'll add this. I see us as possibilities, but not quite yet probabilities, Alexandria. And I had this conversation with someone recently. That's supposed to be my name of my next talk: probabilities versus possibilities. So it is possible, it's very possible, for a Black woman with an alcoholic husband in the house, 3 children, working 2 jobs on the west side of Chicago in one of the worst neighborhoods in the city, crime-ridden, drug-ridden gangs, to get 3 kids to college and 1 through grad school. It is possible. It is absolutely improbable, though. And so when I think about systems versus individual effort, there's no substitute for individual effort, right? We have to keep pushing forward. I get that. But when it comes to dismantling or reforming a system, I'm just not in the camp that looks at those individual efforts for self-preservation as ones that are going to highly influence that system. Yes. So to directly answer your question, I do believe it's incumbent of those of us who have become those possibilities, those wildest dreams of our ancestors. I don't want Cadence to be my wildest dream. I want her to achieve significant things, but why does it have to be so wild to think about a young Black woman becoming the CEO of a Fortune 500 company? I'm just making that up. So
I mean, it just happened, though.
It just happened, right? And it's still a wildest dream. So can we get away from the wildest dream concept? It doesn't mean aspire to be excellent. It just means that why is it still so far-fetched in our society today? So I think that those of us who've made it, who are in certain rooms, I personally believe it's incumbent upon us to speak out about the nonsense. And I know that that potentially comes with great risk to one's professional status and income attainment and wealth accumulation. And so I just challenge people to do that. I had to leave my industry to be able to do it. Funny anecdote, a couple of posts on LinkedIn earlier from a large asset manager. They manage multiple billions of dollars. who decided for Black History Month that they were going to highlight individuals from basically all ethnic groups in their company. And he literally posted this: for our Black History Month, we're going to highlight this Middle Eastern woman and we're going to highlight this Asian man. So we want to highlight underrepresented groups. So somewhere, probably two white men running the company thought that that was a good idea. They thought they were being inclusive during Black History Month. So if I'm a Black person there, I now have to decide, do I speak up about that? Do I say that this is not cool? Appreciate you trying to incorporate everyone, but it's Black History Month. Look at the sign behind me. It's Black History Month. And the problem with speaking up about that, the challenge is that now you potentially come off as being disrespectful of the other marginalized groups, which is not the goal.
Yeah.
I want my Asian American people to win. I want women to win, but it's Black History Month. We're the only group that has to share any accolades with others, who have to share opportunities with everybody. And while that would be wonderful if that was the case across the board, I just think it's fundamentally flawed and unfair and inequitable that for 28 out of 365 days,
the shortest month
that a company decides, let's highlight all the marginalized groups. Yeah. And that is going to be our Black History Month. Now, the first post did happen to be a Black woman, and she happened to be in IT, which is a whole other challenge in of itself at an investment firm, because that's not the role that is highly coveted at that shop. The problem is they sat around and realized we only have one Black person. We only have two Black people.
Highlight her. Let me bring you back. I feel like back. Let me so because we're like, now we have like 6 minutes. So
got it.
I love it. And so yes, it is it is our collective responsibility for one another, right? And so find a way. I see, what I'm doing now is my contribution to the community, making sure that, Black folks can learn about, financial education in a way that is culturally relevant, that understands where, people have come from and where we want to go and all that. And so this is the work, right? And if you can't be the person to do the work, fund the work, right?
Come on now.
Fund the work. Buy some stocks for kids. Fund the economic empowerment programs at YWCA. Because I think it's gonna take us, collectively to do the work. And I'll just say that and move on. There are roadblocks to Black wealth, right? There are to building generational wealth for Black. Some of them are systemic, but then there are some things that we do to ourselves too, right?
Ooh, Lord.
So tell me, what's one roadblock that's within our control?
The easiest one I can think of. This is the freebie. Only thing I can speak of is life insurance right now. Like, I can't speak about it enough. Most wealth is inherited anyway. Period. Full stop. Now, do we want death to be the path to generational wealth? Of course not, right? I would love for Granny to live forever, but I do believe in God, and I do understand that He's going to want her back at some point. And I've gotten more comfortable with that, and I love my Granny. But at the end of the day, one of the things that's missing in our community is a serious focus on insurance. So if the people watching and listening do absolutely nothing else, if you are whether you're provided for your family or not, like oftentimes people say, well, if you don't have kids, you don't really need to worry about insurance. Dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I'm going to say that on record. I don't understand that. Get insurance, single, married, kids, divorced, it don't matter. And if you don't have a beneficiary, I'd be more than happy to provide my name and social security number for you, and Alexandria will as well. Get life insurance, especially while you're younger, because one thing we know, we are all going to move on at some point.
To the upper room.
And at some point, you did it. This is that Blackness that we told y'all was going to come out. I knew exactly what she was talking about. But we know we're going to move on. Unfortunately, some of us are going to move on sooner than others. And if in that passing, while dealing with the grief and the mourning and the house and the apartment and your stuff, $500,000 pops up for your 10-year-old child or your 30-year-old sister or your 40-year-old cousin.
Yes.
That can be tremendous for your family. And so if you don't have insurance and you pass on, you're leaving more debt. I often say that in the Black community, we too often have to pass wealth up and not down. Mm. We too often have to pass assets up, not down. What does that mean? It means that as our elders become older and their health becomes tougher, children, grandchildren, siblings end up footing the bill to cover for those individuals. And we're happy to do it because they sacrifice so much for us. There's literally nothing Granny can ask me for right now that I wouldn't do. Literally nothing. If I had $10 and she needed 20, you getting a text message, Alexandria, that I need $10. And if you can only give me 5, I'm going to go to Marlon behind your back and ask him for the other 5. So what happens is,
I'll be like, new phone, who this?
New phone, who it is. So I'm willing to do that. But every dollar that we have to move up from a generational perspective is one less dollar that we're able to save and invest and move down. And so we need to get out of that cycle. And I think one of the fastest, easiest ways to do that without people worrying about investing in the stock market right now or going to buy real estate, which is all important, get some life insurance. Get life insurance today.
And GoFundMe is not life insurance.
It is not.
I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be petty. I'm just saying. So look, our time is up. Okay. We have exhausted all the time. I felt extra Black. I mean, I got the baby hair. I got my hair wrap on, which is by a Black owned company. My lipstick is by a Black owned company. And then
I'm repping Black Wall Street.
Right. Black Wall Street. I love it.
Let me answer, Alexandra, let me answer this one question before you finish off from the chat. It talked about why there are no Black businesses that are public. So that's an interesting question because by definition, a public company that can be traded is neither white nor Black because it's owned by the public. A different question, but I think is what you're getting at, is why haven't there been any Black businesses that have gone public? That's a tougher question, deeper question. I'm happy to chat offline. Follow me at Rendel _Solomon on IG. Listen, there's a whole chain of how companies grow and develop that speak to this systemic structure, because to grow a business to a sizable scale, to get it to go public, requires funding, requires growth, requires customers, requires more growth, requires more funding. If you don't have access to that, then it's not likely that company is going to get to go public. But we'll get there at some point. But I'm happy to chat more offline, Stacey.
Yes, thank you for that. The internet is trying to play us right now. So I'm like, my hotspot is right here. I'm like putting it there. So as we close up, I just want to Rendel, thank you for taking time today to share this information. I feel like I could just talk to you for a whole nother hour about this stuff. And so thank you for taking time to share with us, right? So thank you. Where can people connect with you to learn more about your work?
You got it. So definitely follow me on IG at Rendel _Solomon, and definitely check out the TED Talk, please, the TEDx, and you can visit Sharecropper to Shareholder.com to see that. I look forward to engaging with any and all of you on this conversation, and definitely want to be a part of your financial journey if I can.
Yeah, thank you. And can you put those links in the chat real quick, Rendel?
They're sitting there right now.
Okay, so everybody, thank you all for coming. And so next Wednesday, we are here at noon Central Standard Time. We'll have the young moguls who will be the next generation of wealthy folks. Not that they're gonna pass it up, right? Or what? Right? I'm sorry, they're not gonna pass it up. They're gonna pass it down, right?
Yep. Your child should not be worried about taking care of you. That's your problem.
Make sure that you have your Wednesday is gonna be our talk of the Women's Accelerator on the 24th. Follow YWCA on social media. We are at YWCA Chicago on all of our social media channels. And also, since this is streamed on Facebook Live, please share it. I like to watch things again with my notepad because, You know, I told y'all Rendell was smart, but he gave all the nuggets today, right? I gave a couple, but you know, we focus on you. No, but really go back and please watch the replay and share it. So, and thank you all so much for your time.